tuning in. I'm Erin, the Reformed Health Coach. Today I'm going to show you some ways to increase the intensity of your at-home workouts when you don't have the ability to increase the weight like you normally would at the gym. Now, these same principles could be applied at the gym, could be applied whether you're only using body weight or regardless of the type of the equipment that you might have on hand at home. So we're going to focus on 3 different factors today. We're going to change the tempo, we're going to change the angle, and we're going to change the focus. So first we're going to focus on the tempo, and I'm going to show you a push-up, a squat, a lunge, and a bicep curl. Okay, so we're going to start off with the push-up. So basically just slow down. Go slower on your way down. You can add pauses and holds. You can add a pause at the bottom. You can add a whole pause at the bottom and in the middle. Change it up in all sorts of ways. You can make one push-up last 10 seconds or more. If you can already bang out 20, 30 push-ups, you're gonna get a lot more bang for your buck if you really slow down. Try this out. So I'm gonna get into my push-up position. Okay, and then I'm just gonna really slowly descend. Really slowly push back up. Another thing you can do is add a pause. So I can descend like halfway and then pause, hold, and come back up. Or I can go halfway down, pause, go all the way down, pause, push back up, and that's really challenging. Now, I was doing that in a full extended push-up position. You can do the same thing from your knees. Really great way. If you can't do a full push-up yet, if you're doing push-ups from your knees, adding a really slow tempo, adding those pause holds is a great way to advance your push-up strength and get you to a full push-up position. Now we're gonna apply those same principles to a body weight squat. I'm gonna start with my feet. For me, I like to go a little bit wider than hip width apart. That just works for my hips the best. Okay, for a squat, remember a squat is a hip hinging movement. It's not about bending your knees. It's about sending your hips back like you're gonna sit down on a chair or sit down on the toilet. So first thing is gonna be how to have good squat form. So send your hips back, lower yourself down, nice and slow and controlled, and come back up. Now my typical speed for a body weight squat would be like pretty fast, right? But I could do this all day. I got other stuff to do. So I'm gonna very slowly descend. Maybe you do a count of 5 or 10, get down to what's the bottom of your range of motion, and then very slowly come back up. Nice glute squeeze at the top. Now we're gonna add some pauses. So we're gonna still use that slow tempo, we're gonna add some pauses. So I'm gonna send my butt back, make it about halfway and hold. Then I'm gonna come down lower. About the bottom and hold. Come back up. Really feeling it right now. Hold about halfway up. And then come all the way back up to the top. I'm really feeling that in my quads right now. Another thing you could do is add some kind of pulses. So let's say we get to that kind of half squat position. Stand here and just do little pulses up and down. 5, 10, 20, whatever. Don't stand back up. Go back down to the bottom of your range of motion. Same thing. Do some pulses here. 5, 10, 20, whatever you want. Then come back up to the top, and that will have your legs burning. Next up, we're going to apply those same principles now to a lunge. We basically want to lower ourselves pretty much straight down, making sure our front knee is kind of aiming over the middle of the foot or even toward the little toe side. We don't want it coming in. Okay, so we're gonna come down, get yourself in a nice stable position, chest up, lower down, stand back up. Now we're gonna add the tempo change. Slow descent, pause, slow ascent, nice squeeze to that glute. Now we're gonna use those same mid-rep pause holds like we did with the squat and the push-up. So I'm gonna go about halfway down, hold, lower, bottom of my position, hold. This is a lot more challenging. Back halfway up, hold, and come all the way up. Nice squeeze to the glute. That's quite effective. Obviously it's a lunge, so you would do Same thing on the other side. And last up for tempo, we're going to do bicep curl. So I'm going to show you how you can apply this same principle with a resistance band or with a dumbbell, or if you're just using isometrics, just using your own tension in your biceps. Okay, so I've got my resistance band around my foot. Just get yourself up, set up for however you like to do your band, or if you're using dumbbells, or if you're just using your own intrinsic muscle squeezing ability, that is cool as well. And we're just going to go really slow. Right? So we're going to start shoulders back and down, hips tucked under. So squeeze your butt, squeeze your abs. We have a really nice steady body, so we can really focus on the movement. So just very slowly, super slow. Come up, really focus on squeezing those muscles. Come all the way up, very slowly. Release all the way down. There's two main muscular components of the movement. We have the concentric, so that's when we're like flexing the muscle. So that's the work that's coming up. The eccentric component is as we're lowering it. So even though we're now extending our bicep, it's going into a more stretched position, it's still having to maintain that tension. And if you've never focused on the eccentric portion of a movement, you will really feel this. Okay, so this is just taking that nice slow tempo. So now we can add those pauses, right? So you start going slow, get to about halfway up and hold. Slowly come back up, hold, really squeeze your biceps at the top. Lower about halfway, hold. Lower all the way down to the bottom. We can also add those pulses, right? So do the same kind of thing that we did with the squats. We're just gonna add little pulses to those mid-rep pauses. So start off with our good form, nice and tall, core tight, come up about halfway, and then just pulse. 5, 10, 20, whatever. Dog's coming to join us. Then continue all the way up to the top of the movement and pulse. And come all the way back down. Now we're gonna move on to changing the angle. Since we're already doing biceps, I'm just gonna go back to that. So we're gonna start off with a reverse curl. So reverse curl, so typically in a curl, your palm is up, and you're moving your elbow, your fist towards your shoulder. So we're gonna have our palms facing down. Now, you want to kind of tuck your elbows into your side here, pull your shoulder blades back and down, and you're trying to keep your palms, you want to get them as like parallel to the ground as you can, just depending on your range of motion, your mobility, like in your shoulders. You might not be able to get all the way down there, but you want to be kind of pushing your thumbs like they're going to be meeting this way, right? So I'm going to end up kind of here, but I'm aiming to be here, if that makes sense. So my elbows are tucked at my sides, my shoulders are back and down, and I'm gonna curl up and down. So I can do this at a more regular pace, just changing the angle. Or I could also apply that tempo, slower tempo to it. I could apply pulses. I didn't bring any dumbbells outside with me, but that's another thing you can do if you do have some dumbbells. You can change the angle of where your arms are. So typically when you think of a bicep curl, it's pretty neutral. Like your hands are pretty much like straight out in front of you when you curl, right? So you can also go wide. So, you know, you're making like a 45-degree angle out from your body. Really focus on squeezing your shoulder blades back when you do this. So we're just hitting the biceps from a little bit of a different angle. You might actually, just doing that without any weight, I can actually feel my rear delt when I do that, right behind at the back of the shoulder. You could go super narrow. So you're gonna hold them really close together. And so if you have dumbbells, like your dumbbells are gonna be, the ends of the dumbbells are gonna be touching each other. That's more in front of you. You could lean forward a little bit. Now be really careful if how much weight you're using. Keep your back nice and straight, but kind of send your hips back almost like the beginning of a squat. do that same thing. So now your arms are almost perpendicular to the ground. They're not touching your body. Okay, so that's how we change the angle up for the biceps. And we can change up the angle for a squat as well. So a few different ways to do this. Conventionally, a squat, your feet are about hip distance, maybe a little bit wider than hip distance apart. So we can try a sumo squat. My legs are gonna be quite far apart. My feet are gonna kind of be angled out. Same thing that we did before. We're gonna send the hips back. Get to the bottom of your position. Slow and controlled coming back up. Squeeze those glutes. So this really is focusing on your inner thighs. Ladies, great way to work that pelvic floor. You know what I'm talking about. And again, we can apply those same principles of pause, pulse, slow tempo, all of that. But if you've been doing nothing but standard air squats, if you go to a sumo squat, even with no weight, you're really gonna feel that, particularly in your inner thighs. Another thing you can do, this is really difficult for me, but is to just do more of a narrow squat. So your feet touching or just kind of more narrow than your hips, and do the same thing. And this is a real challenge, especially for your ankle mobility. I really have to use my arms as a counterbalance for that. Slow and steady. Again, same as always, you can add those tempo and pause components to that as well to increase the intensity even more. And then one more way to change the angle on a squat would actually be staggering your stance a little bit. So this is literally my dog's outdoor water bowl. I'm gonna use this under one foot to stagger my stance. So it's gonna place the emphasis more on the foot that's on the floor. So on the ground. So I'm gonna have one foot up on that. Use whatever you have that's sturdy, a yoga block, a dog bowl, right? Whatever. You don't want it to be too high. I would say anywhere from, 2 inches to probably 8 inches maybe. You don't want it to be like crazy up high, okay? And then, excuse me, sir. He's like, that's my bowl. What are you doing? Okay, so then same thing. And you can apply this to whatever kind of style of squat that you're doing. But what that's going to do is going to make it way more challenging on the leg that the foot is on the ground, because you're not going to be applying as much pressure through that elevated leg. So those are 3 ways to change up the angle on a squat. And now we move to lunges, and this is like both my favorite and least favorite thing to do. It is so effective, but it is really quite difficult. So we're gonna do a 3-point lunge. Okay, so when you do this, you can either do all of them on one side and then do all of them on the other side, or you can alternate. It's definitely more taxing to do, more muscularly taxing to do all of them on one side first, but it's easier to count. So I'll leave that up to you. I'm gonna show you on both sides just for brevity's sake. So you're gonna start off just standing, normally. Make sure your chest is up, your shoulders are back, your hips are nice and square. Tuck your tailbone, squeeze your glutes. We're gonna step forward into just a standard lunge. Step back. Now we're gonna go to a 45-degree angle. Always making sure that knee is not coming in, okay? Step back, and now we're gonna go straight over to the side, and this one's gonna be really challenging. This alone is called a Cossack squat. If we do this to the side, so you're gonna lunge to the side, really shoot your butt back. You might feel a bit of a stretch in your inner thigh right here. Get as low as you can go and push back up. So I'm gonna step forward on the left side, lunge down, push myself back up, go 45-degree, making sure my knee pointed more toward my little toe, push back up. Now I'm gonna do that Cossack squat. So I'm gonna step over, shoot my butt back, make sure that knee is still pointing towards the outside of my foot, and push back up. That's the 3-point lunge. It is a killer. And then if you really wanted to, you could still apply the tempo and pause component as well. So just to show you again what it looks like more in full speed. Straight ahead, 45, Out to the side for a Cossack squat. This foot can come up like that, or it can stay down. Whatever feels more comfortable to you. Switch sides. Straight ahead. 45. Cossack squat. Ooh. Yeah, that is killer. Try that one. Now we're going to change the angle on the push-up. So whether you're doing them from your knees or from all the way up from your feet, it doesn't matter. The point is we're going to change the angle. And if it's something that you haven't done before, it's likely going to be quite challenging. Push-ups in and of themselves are challenging. So the first one you might have seen before, it's a diamond squat. So this is going to focus more of the work towards the pecs. So you basically put your hands in a diamond. I'm going to do it from my knees so I can do it with good form. So you lower and come back up. Make sure you're exhaling on the way up. So diamond push-ups, that's number one. You could also do a wide stance push-up. So, typically you're going to be about shoulder width apart for a standard push-up. So just go out a bit further from that. Again, I'm going to do this from my knees because I'm not going to be able to do this with good form from my feet. So same deal. We still, like a standard push-up, our elbow wants to be going back at about a 45-degree angle here. Lower. And come back up. And then last we have military push-up, tricep push-up, close body push-up, whatever you want to call it. These used to be like exclusively what I did. If you're someone who, for martial arts or for some sort of physical fitness training where you are required to do a certain amount of push-ups, being able to throw these in might actually help you to get more as long as you're able to do that. So if you're doing you're trying to get a certain amount, the maximum amount of push-ups within a minute or whatever your time frame is, if you're doing your standard push-ups where your elbows are at a 90 or a 45-degree angle and your chest really starts to get tired, you can switch it up to throw these in because then these are going to be far more tricep dominant. So what you're going to do is your hands are pretty much going to be in the same position, maybe a little bit closer, but you're going to really keep your upper arms basically touching your body, the sides of your ribs, okay? So instead of going back at an angle, we're going to keep it totally tight to the body. Apparently it's time to play fetch and come back up. So whereas the diamond push-up and the wide push-up really focused more on the pecs, this is really hammering the triceps. So if you have to do a whole bunch of push-ups at once, this is kind of a tricky way to keep doing push-ups but changing the muscle load a little bit. And then if you're just a beast at doing push-ups and you don't need any of this modified stuff on your knees, you just want to increase the intensity, raise your legs. So whatever you have, you can even use a wall, use your couch, use a chair. This is literally an empty planter that's just sitting here. You just raise your feet up onto that, make sure it's something stable, and then do whatever variety of push-ups you want to do. I think I could do one of those with good form. So we talked about changing up the tempo, which included pauses and pulses. We talked about changing the angle. You could also apply changing the tempo to that as well. And the last thing is changing the focus. So if we don't have access to the gym, we don't have access to a huge variety of equipment and being able to increase the weights and the stimulus from the gym environment, we need to change our focus, change our mindset. So we really get to the intention of the movement. So you really want to focus on form, making sure that you're, especially because you don't have much access to being able to increase your weight, you don't have to worry about that ego and trying to do as much weight as you can. Just trying to focus on having absolute perfect form as much as you can. And then you really want to focus on, we talked about concentric and eccentric. In a squat, we start with the eccentric lowering, and then we finish with the concentric coming back up. So the isometric is basically just that squeeze. So you can have no weight or much lighter weight than you can normally handle, but just by squeezing the muscle, you can get a lot more bang for your buck. And ultimately, when you are able to go back to the gym, when you're able to increase the load by changing the weight, you'll get more out of those movements because you'll be more connected to those muscles. So I don't know, I think about like Bruce Lee, just like irradiating tension through his whole body. Bodybuilders are really great at this. Bodybuilders, part of what they have to do is flex. That's basically all I'm talking about is flexing. It's the amount of like intensity, ferociousness in which you flex a muscle. That's an isometric hold. So biceps are really easy to demonstrate, triceps as well. So you can do like a hammer curl is a really good way to demonstrate this. So in a hammer curl, instead of your palms being up like this, they're gonna be like straight out. So you're in a thumbs up position basically. Let's put your shoulder in neutral. So what you do is you start with your arms by your side. So now we're making believe there's tension. We're creating the tension on our own. So really squeeze that bicep. So it's like you're gonna point your thumbs over your shoulder. And then when you come back down, when our bicep extends, our tricep flexes. So now I'm really squeezing my triceps, the back of my arm, hold it at the bottom and a nice squeeze, and then come back up. So now as the tricep is relaxing, now my bicep is contracting. So I'm using isometric resistance, or I'm creating the tension with my own muscle, my own focus on the movement. So those are the 3 methods for increasing the intensity and the effectiveness of your at-home workouts. These again can be applied when you go back to the gym with whatever equipment you have on hand, or whether you're only using body weight. So again, change the tempo, and that includes adding pauses and pulses. You're gonna change the angle, and then you're gonna change your focus. Change your focus on quality of movement and really connecting to those muscles. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you learned anything in this video and any suggestions you have for videos for the future. Remember, reform your lifestyle, reform your health.